Hello and welcome back to Just Meg Elise, a podcast about healing, remembering who you are, and diving into deeper alignment. I'm Meg, and I'll be your host. In today's episode, I want to talk about the myth of fixing ourselves, or the myth of one day being this healed person. Because I don't know if we ever will be fully healed. I don't know if that's a thing, or if we'll always instead be on a healing journey. Because the thing is, I've done so much healing throughout my life, but I still get triggered by things. I still do. Things from the past still come up that I have to work through, and I have a feeling that's going to happen for the rest of my life. However, the difference now is I have the tools to deal with that when I am triggered. But when we have this idea that healing, I have to look perfect and I will never get triggered again, it's just not realistic. That's just not how it unfolds most of the time, and that's okay. And being okay with that is super important so that we're not placing unrealistic goals on ourselves, to be this perfectly healed person when that's just probably not going to happen. Is it possible for you to go through a tremendous amount of healing and come out of that a better person? Hell yeah. And you should. But it doesn't mean you're not going to still be triggered by things, And that's why I consider this to be a journey. There is ebbs and there's flows. There's ups and there's downs, and there's always going to be. I will say in the beginning it felt like the ebbs and the flows were higher and lower right in the beginning, and now it's a little bit less than that. Like when I'm triggered, I'm able to deal with that trigger at a much faster response rate, so I'm not going into such a big low. Do you get what I'm saying? But so I do think that the journey becomes easier the further down the road that you go, but I still think it's always going to be a journey. But some of us seem to treat healing as almost like this race to the perfect version of ourselves. Let me try and get there as fast as I can. Let me run towards that goal, when that goal doesn't exist. And often when you are beating yourself up like that and doing the most that you can in order to get to that goal, you are causing yourself more harm because you're placing undue stress on the body, on the mind, on your mental state to get to this place that doesn't exist, and you're putting more pressure on yourself that's just not needed. You don't need more pressure, you need more softness. You don't need more pressure, you need more self-compassion. So healing is not linear, it is not a straight line, it is going to ebb and flow. You're going to have bursts of healing and then bursts of more pain and trauma, and then more healing and then more pain and trauma, and then more healing and peace and more pain and trauma. It's going to flow along that way. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Or have more healing and then be triggered and have to come back, and have more healing and then be triggered. So when we think that we're all of a sudden healed, that is our ego coming in. Or it could also be our spiritual ego, as I like to call it, thinking that we're this healed person. Or this can happen to people when you're first stepping into spirituality. You think that you've let go of the ego because you're become better at meditating, just to use this as an example. And instead, it's the ego coming in through the back door saying stuff like, I am such a good meditator. I am so spiritual. That's still your ego. So I like to call it the spiritual ego, because then it's the ego thinks that it's not still there. That's not me. That's not the same ego as before. Yeah, it is. It is. Because it's still comparing yourself to another person, thinking I am better than them, that I am more healed than them, that I am more spiritual than them, that I am a better meditator than them, that I am a better whatever the hell than that person. It's still the ego coming in through the back door. So in perfectionism and healing, wanting to be perfect, wanting to be perfectly healed and running towards that goal, it's often driven by self-judgment, just like most perfectionism is driven by self-judgment and fear. Fear that we're not good enough, fear that we're not lovable enough unless we're fully healed, or fear that we're not lovable enough if we're not perfect, But the thing is, you can want change, you can want healing while also knowing that you're not perfect and that you're not broken. All of us have things that we have to work through. All of us have traumas that have happened to us throughout our life. No person is able to escape this life without some trauma. I hate saying that. But it's true. For some reason, the picture of Oprah just came up. You get some trauma, you get some trauma, you get some trauma. All of us have trauma. All of us. And because of that trauma, we have often created poor coping mechanisms, right? So we have to learn to deal with those, learn to heal those, learn to interact with our world in different ways, in healthier ways, But that doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean you're some broken person who's not worthy of love, belonging, friendship. Because if that were the case, that would mean that none of us were worthy of those things, which we know is not true. We know that's not true. So why would it make it true for you? But that perfectionism that comes up, it's like there's this belief that like, well, if I'm not perfect, then I'm not lovable. If I'm not useful, I'm not lovable. That's one of the ones that I'm working through on my own. But it's just not true. And we have to start releasing that belief. And it comes from the understanding that you will never be fully healed. You will always be on a journey. This will always be a journey. And that's okay. It's a journey for everybody else too. It's not like this other person who's teaching you is perfectly healed. Like, let's use myself as an example. I am not perfectly healed and I never will be. I'm always going to have triggers. And if there is somebody in your life who's teaching you and coming from a place of, I'm healed, I'm perfect, nothing ever triggers me, that's a red flag. It's a red flag. It's the spiritual ego coming in through the back door saying, well, I'm perfect. And it's probably, insecurity and fear on their own end that like, if they're not perfect, if they're not perfectly healed, they shouldn't be teaching others from an unhealed place. That's probably like a fear of that, right? But it's not real. Nobody is fully healed. All of us still have triggers. There have been times in my life, especially like early on in my healing, where I was seeking every single type of healing modality because I was like wanting to take it all in, wanting to heal all of these different parts of myself. And yes, part of that is a great thing, like wanting to go on that healing journey, wanting to look at my shadow, wanting to fix all of those things and fix my poor coping mechanisms and all of the things. That's a good thing. But at the same time, the reaching for that, the reaching for perfection, the reaching to be like, I didn't realize it at the time, but underneath I was like reaching for this end goal to take place that one day I would be healed when that's not there. You picture it like out in the distance that like one day I'm going to be healed. No, that's not how it works. You are on a journey. We are all on a journey, and that's okay. Things are going to come back in, but being on this journey, it's like so I think of it kind of like this, almost like a video game. Like, I know there are video games where you're like walking along a path and you're like collecting tools as you go. Like you're collecting more armor, you're collecting more abilities, you're collecting more magic. Like that's how I think of our healing journey. It is the perfect metaphor for our healing journey. The farther along we go, the more tools we collect. So then as we come across a new challenge, we're more easily able to adapt and cope with that challenge, you know? And let's think of that person in that video game. Like let's look at them as an example. Once they get to the very end of that video game and they've won the challenge, they've beat the bad guy. Like yeah, they have all this beautiful, gorgeous armor, they have all this magic, and they have so many different tools to pull from. Does that mean they're a perfect person? No, it doesn't. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is fully healed, and that's okay. But realizing it's a journey, taking that pressure off of yourself, kind of thinking of it like that video game, like, oh, here's a new tool, here's a new tool, here's a new tool for myself, here's a new healing modality that might help me, here's a new breath work that might help me. Looking at it that way, I think is so much more freeing and almost like brings joy into the healing process, because it doesn't have to be all seriousness all the time. There can be joy in that process. I promise. And yeah, there's moments of tears and snotty moments on the floor in fetal position. There's that as well. But there can also be moments of joy. I will say during that time where I kind of had the realization that I was like, trying to make it to the end point of this path, right? I realized, oh, I'm trying to fix myself because I'm afraid I'm not lovable as I am. Or, oh, I'm trying to fix myself because I fear I'm not lovable and if I'm not useful, or if I'm not perfect, or if I'm not healed. And you will never hear me say that you have to be fully healed to be lovable, because you are lovable as you are. All of us are. All of us are. The only caveat to that is some of us do have poor coping mechanisms that we picked up because of trauma that we do have to work through. That does not make you unlovable. Not a smidge of that experience makes you unlovable, because all of us deal with that. All of us have different things that we have to work on. But it does mean that you are a flawed human being. All of us are. And that's okay. The beautiful thing about that is you're working on it. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you weren't working on those things. So in that aspect, I am so proud of you. And if you haven't have been told by somebody, I am extremely proud of you. This is not an easy journey. Healing is not an easy journey. Doing shadow work, doing ego work, journaling, being introspective, going to therapy, going to coaching, whatever it is that you're seeking out, those are not easy things to do. If they were, everybody would do it. And so I'm very proud of you for seeking something better for yourself, for being brave enough to look at yourself and say, okay, I'm not perfect and there are things I can work on, so let's do that. Let's look at those things and let's work on those things and let's try and improve the best way we can. You know, that is a sacred thing, and if nobody has told you before, I am incredibly proud of you for that. Because it's not easy work, and it's not an easy journey. And I would never promise that it was. That video game, going back to the video game metaphor, was that easy? No, it's hard to level up in those games. It's hard. Just like in life, it is hard. Some of those things are very hard to overcome, but it doesn't make it less worthy of trying to overcome them. Because the person who comes out on that other side, let's use the metaphor, the person that comes out on that other side with the stronger shield, with more magic, with more joy, with more strength, with more tools, that is a beautiful thing. And you are always going to be leveling up in that way. Unlike the video game, you're never going to get to the end point. You just won't. You're always going to be learning, you're always going to be growing, you're always going to be evolving. And I also wanted to offer this perspective, what if healing isn't about becoming someone new, but instead remembering who you were underneath the conditioning, underneath the trauma? Allowing that playful spirit to come back out, allowing the childlike wonder to come back out within you. What would that look like? What would he or she look like? What would they look like? And you guys know I love journaling prompts, so I wrote some down for you that might be helpful to you. So again, you can do pen and paper journaling, old school, write an email to yourself, or stick it in a Word document, whatever you want to do, or you can just simply answer them to yourself as I ask them right now. So here's the first one. Where did I first learn that I had to be better to be loved? What part of me still believes I am only worthy when I'm growing? What would my body feel like to know that it is safe just as I am right now? In what moments do I feel most at home with myself? I love that one, and I want to pause here. That is super important to ask yourself, in what moments do I feel most at peace? And what moments do I feel most at home with myself? Around what people do I feel most at peace? Taking note of that, literally writing it down. I have it in a list on my phone, the moments that bring me the most peace, and trying to do those things more. Is it painting? Is it being outside? Is it being with friends? Is it singing? Is it dancing? What is it? What is it for you? Writing those things down and taking a tangible action to try and bring those things into your life more often. That is going to bring you more joy. That is going to bring you, that in and of itself is going to bring you more healing. Just allowing yourself to experiencing the things that bring you joy without an agenda, without needing to be anywhere else or do anything else, and just being present in that moment and the joy that it brings you. Okay, and here's the last one. What would it mean to trust the timing of my healing? To create spaciousness around your healing instead of urgency. What would that feel like? And I wanted to do one additional practice with you guys. It's just a gentle breathwork practice. So for this, we're going to inhale and exhale, and on our inhale, we're going to say an affirmation, and on the exhale, we're going to say an affirmation. So the inhale affirmation is I am whole. The exhale affirmation is even the messy parts. So let's do it together now. First, just take a deep inhale with me without using the affirmation. And exhale slowly. And on the next inhale, we're going to say I am whole. Inhale. I am whole. Exhale, even the messy parts. Inhale, saying I am whole. I am whole, even the messy parts. Exhale. Inhale, I am whole. Exhale, even the messy parts. Once more, inhale, I am whole. Exhale, even the messy parts. And return to normal breath. And hopefully that made your body feel just a little bit more calm, but also just remembering that this is a journey, and that's okay. and finding joy in that journey and finding ease in that journey and not putting so much pressure on yourself to like get to this end goal, because it don't exist. It don't exist. Like, you're always on that path. You're always collecting new cool stuff, and that's okay. When I look at it from that perspective, when I look at it from the video game perspective, it really does. It like brings laughter into that experience and joy and into that knowing that like I'm always going to be collecting some cool shit. That's how I look at it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you want to go deeper on your healing journey, there are many different ways to connect. Please pick up a copy of my book, Don't You Dare. It's available on Amazon. If you want to dive into the ego voice or learn more about shadow work, I think it's a beautiful tool for that. I also have my Most Loved Meditation bundle available for purchase. These are my highest rated meditations over the years, and all of this is going to be linked below in the show description notes. So depending on the platform, it might be one link that then takes you to all of these things, or it might be like multiple links. I also have an affirmation reset course available, so this course helps you rewire negative and limiting beliefs. I also offer one-on-one coaching and hypnotherapy services. If you're interested in a session with me, please visit my website, meganshirey.com, meganshirey.com. I also teach a free live guided meditation on the Insight Timer app every Sunday morning at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific. Please also join us on Patreon for exclusive meditations, behind-the-scenes reflections, and a soft healing community space. And if you enjoy these episodes, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and please leave us a review. It helps us to reach more listeners. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be joyous and at ease, sending you infinite love and light, and until next time.